Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Rising. Welcome to my channel. It is such a blessing to be here with you. So thank you for being here with me for your February 2024 recap. I am so grateful for the opportunity to connect with you today. In the description box below, you will find links to information on personal readings, the Soul Good membership channel on Telegram, and ways to support the work I do here if you would like to explore any of those options. You will also find a timestamp if you would like to jump to the start of your reading. Please do keep in mind this is a collective reading, not a personal reading, so use your discernment and take only what resonates with you. If you find that something shared does resonate, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, comment below, and or share this content as it tells YouTube that there may be something valuable here for someone else, which is a gift to both this channel and to others as well, and I greatly appreciate that support. February brought for us the meeting of Chiron and the North Node, inspiring us to recognize and accept our wounds and to activate our own healing. We were encouraged to forge a new path forward, utilizing the wisdom, knowledge, and intuitive truths we've gained to align us with our higher calling. So, Sagittarius, we're going to be looking at the overall energy, what realizations or epiphanies February 2024 brought for you, how this might impact your journey moving forward, and getting some messages or advice to best support and serve you moving forward. So let's dive in. Please, Father, Mother, Life, Christ, Universe, Spirits, Guides, Angels, our cosmic team, our ancestors, our higher selves, tell us about the overall energy for Sagittarius, please. What did February 2024 bring for Sagittarius? All right, tell us please, what realizations or epiphanies did February 2024 bring for Sagittarius? Okay, tell us please, how might this impact Sagittarius moving forward? What messages or advice will best support and serve Sagittarius moving forward, please? Thank you. All right. What else do we need to know, please, about the overall energy for Sagittarius? Oh, goodness. Okay. What else? Whoa, what happened? Okay. What else do we need to know, please, about how this will impact Sagittarius's journey moving forward? Thank you. What else do we need to know, please? All right. I feel like you guys may have had a lot of things coming up, things coming to the surface, perhaps. All right. Anything else we need to know, please, about the overall energy for Sagittarius and what took place for them in February? Thank you. Anything else we need to know, please, about the realizations or epiphanies? Okay. Wow. All right. Thank you. Anything else? Any other messages or advice that will best support and serve Sagittarius moving forward, please? Okay. All right. So Sagittarius, the overall energy for you we have here, the law of mentalism. Get clarity, pardon me, on your core values and commit to what matters. Yeah, I just got the word shedding. I feel as though maybe February did bring for you this energy of peeling back some layers, bringing forward things that maybe needed to be addressed, healed, released, felt even. And I feel as though this was meant to bring you that clarity, right? Meant to really show you what it is that matters to you and what your, okay, that's the key word, your core values are. As we move through our lives, oftentimes we have a lot of programming. Okay, we have a lot of wounds and trauma and programming that are kind of cast upon us, if you will. And a lot of times we carry these things, right? They've been passed down through our family and through society. And we tend to pick up these things and, essentially buy them, if you will, and then sell them as if pardon me, they are our own. And so I do feel, this whole kind of like peeling back of the layers was meant to really show you what matters to you, right? Not what matters to anybody external from yourself, to really get you connected with what your values are and what you care about very deeply. So it's interesting to me, there are moon phases on this card, but when I was holding it down here, it reminded me of almost like an egg being cracked open. So I do feel like for some of you, maybe you've went through this rebirth, or you've kind of broke through your shell. Maybe you had kind of placed yourself in some kind of box, or, this is who I am, this is what it is, this is what life is. And I feel like for some of you, you may have broken free from that, and you may be seeing the world from a very different perspective. We also have here for you the law of perfection. Choose to view life in all its glory. Interesting, right? Because you have, but two of these cards have, what appears to be mirrors on them. Even this small box here, or it looks like a mirror to me. And I feel as though, I feel like you're being shown a lot of things. And again, I feel like it's coming from a perspective that you had not viewed things at from before. It's interesting again that it says here, choose to view life in all its glory. And I do feel like you're seeing the world through different eyes, or maybe, taking off the rose tinted glasses or something. And maybe you're even the energy of February brought forward this acknowledgement or realization, which we'll get to, but maybe it brought through this realization of, I'm a creator of my reality. What I think about, I bring about, right? Whatever I choose to believe in is how I'm going to view the world. And, so I do feel that this is where this is coming in, because it does say, of course, get clarity on your core values. But I also feel like it's your belief systems as well. I feel like that kind of went through a change as well. And, maybe you had certain beliefs about the world and are now seeing things in a much different way. Again, it feels like maybe, and I think I've talked to you guys about this in previous readings, maybe you're seeing the world with a lot more color, things look more vibrant or robust. Maybe you are just sinking into that a little bit more, seeing all of the beauty in the world. Maybe you're choosing to focus more on that, or did in the month of February. Maybe that's carrying over into March. You have here the law of gender. Embrace your divine masculine and divine feminine within. Now, regardless of whether you are of the male or female gender, is irrelevant. Okay, this is not specific to one or the other. We have both polarities, okay? We have both sides of that coin. And so with the feminine energy, okay, you can be in a more divine or natural state, or you can be in a more shadow state, as it's called. And I feel like what's important to recognize about, for example, the natural or divine feminine is very understanding, nurturing, tender, kind, intuitive, very creative, also very kind of flowing or in a state of ease or allowing. Also, not afraid of emotions, able to surrender, right? The shadow feminine is more or feels more powerless, maybe even withholds things, feels weak, or is maybe codependent or needy or overly emotional, um, kind of in this victim mentality. Now, with the masculine in its natural state, it is confident, it is focused, logical, decisive, stable, clear, courageous, disciplined, assertive, right? Certain, has clarity, is stronger in protecting themselves and others. And the shadow is more of like this abuse of power, being a bit unstable or aggressive, controlling or critical, avoidant, confrontational, these sorts of things. There's a lot of information out there on the web, right, that you can definitely dive more deeply into. But I feel as though there was this call for you in the month of February to balance these energies out, to recognize that, it's okay, for example, to be assertive with your needs and your wants, but to also be sensitive and compassionate to others, right? That it's okay to be strong. It's okay to, be decisive and to know what you want, but to also, be a bit tender and allow things to flow, to be flexible, So I feel as though there was this call for you to bring balance to both of these things within you. And, it's interesting because I feel like when we look at these two different laws here, right, get clarity on your core values and commit to what matters, that is coming through as that more masculine side, divine masculine energy, and then choose to view life in all its glory. I feel like that is more on the feminine side, right? It's being more kind of open to beauty that's around you, to feeling into life more versus just being very kind of analytical about it, or maybe even linear about it, something like that. You also have culmination, release, illumination. Yeah, I do feel like you've had a lot brought to your attention. I do feel as though, like I said, there have been things I feel coming up to the surface for you to release. And I do feel like the whole point in that was to, again, help you to gain clarity on what really matters to you, to help you to see things from a very different perspective, because those rose colored glasses that I was talking about, right, are often colored that way due to any kind of trauma, wounding, programming, lower egoic drives that are kind of running the show behind the scenes. And so, I feel like there was a lot of things that were coming up, or maybe specific things for each of you, right, that were coming up in order to allow you or help you or give you the opportunity at the very least to release those things. Because I feel like, how do I say this? With that culmination energy, it feels like there's more for you. It feels like almost like, living in a box. Like it feels like there's more for you to bring forward, to like add to your experience. But I feel as though there certainly was some illumination or light brought to some things that needed to be released in order for you to be able to move forward into a new beginning, right? To take steps towards really, again, experiencing life in a different way. I do feel like this is an energy that's come forward for you before. And I feel like it's just kind of building on that, right? For those of you who feel called, you may want to go back and watch some of the previous Tarotscopes that are in the playlist. You know, it might give you an idea of where, like, what's being built upon if you haven't watched those previously. But I think that's pretty interesting. You also have collaboration, memberships, and network. Yeah, I feel like for some of you, there's been this almost, yeah, thank you, this cleansing, it feels like, of your social circles, right? Maybe you have kind of stepped away from social media, or maybe some like groups that you were a part of, or some kind of community that you were a part of, you know, and just found that they're not serving you, that maybe you're no longer interested, right? Again, committing to what matters. And I feel like for some of you, maybe you had belonged to or were a part of certain communities or groups or memberships or networks that just really don't have that much weight for you. They don't have a lot of meaning for you. And for others of you, maybe it's an and or type of thing. But I feel like some of you may have been um, finding yourself drawn to different groups, or making new connections or something, collaborating with people maybe that you wouldn't have thought of previously, or joining certain memberships or networks that maybe you hadn't thought of or didn't consider, and are finding that maybe those are more illuminating to you, or they are more vibrant, or feel, how do I say this, it feels like maybe they are just almost like invigorating or something. So you may have found, you know, again, that it's either or and or. For some of you, which is really interesting, for some of you, I feel like, I just feel like there's more on this backing away from certain groups. I feel like there's a level of independence, if you will, or individuality that's come up within you, and just realizing that your values don't really mesh with those of certain groups or memberships that you belong to before, certain communities. You have here as well reversal, deceleration, distance. Yeah, it does feel like that, right? I was picking that up. This almost like creating distance between you and certain groups or circles or what have you, that just don't seem to resonate, that don't seem to, you know, you don't seem to align with, they don't seem to matter to you, or they don't have a lot of weight, or you don't agree with, or something like that. Yeah, so I just feel like you may have either created distance between you and these groups, or perhaps some of you have, you know, were pursuing certain things, and maybe you kind of withdrew from them or slowed down in pursuing them or something, because I feel like for some of you, whatever was brought forward in February, I feel like your perspectives have changed. I'm getting some fear coming up. Maybe these were some tough decisions to make, but it's interesting, because again, with that divine masculine energy, there's that whole having like boundaries. Like, it's okay for me to have boundaries, I can still love you and care about you, but you know, these are my boundaries, this is what is important to me. And yeah, so I feel like for some of you, there's this whole kind of maybe keeping people at arm's length or something like that. I'm also noticing these, you know, spiraling here on the card. And for some of you, I feel like maybe you went back and forth about these decisions. Okay? Maybe for some of you they weren't necessarily easy to make. But I do feel like some of you were stimulated, if you will, by that more natural masculine energy, again, whether you're male or female, to create boundaries, to really establish those and be very decisive and certain about them, and to be assertive, not aggressive, okay, but assertive. Like, this is what it is, and that's it. You have here mysticism, spirituality, and escapism. I feel like for some of you, yeah, the overall energy is really bringing forward this. It's, I think, even if you don't or wouldn't necessarily label it this way, I feel like you've reached new levels of spirituality, or new levels at the very least of understanding yourself at a much deeper level. I feel like some of you may have seen, and I want to say this word, it may be triggering to some, but I feel like it's relevant for somebody. You may have now started to see through delusions. And it's interesting because maybe these are, or I'm getting like delusions or illusions that you've had around certain people, or I don't know, certain, why am I getting this? It's almost like certain like clubs or viewpoints or something. I just feel like you may have gotten some clarity. Previously, maybe you were kind of like avoiding these things, right? Maybe you didn't really want to see things for what they were, or to acknowledge something, right? For some of you, maybe it has been time to release certain things, and maybe this is something you were kind of avoiding, like, I don't really want to see that. But I feel like February may have brought for you, like, hey, sorry, you can't just not see this. You kind of have to at this point. Yeah, I just feel like I just heard like turning over a new leaf. I don't know, for some of you maybe it's, others would have said like, I don't even know you. Like, they feel like they don't know you anymore, and I feel like it's because whoever you were previously, or you thought you were previously, was someone that you're, or you were like operating from, old versions of yourself, or trauma or wounding. Maybe your lower egoic drives were kind of running the show. Um, I mean, for the longest time, Sag, I thought I knew who I was, and I was like dead set on it. But once I started healing and peeling back my own layers, I realized that that wasn't really true. um, I mean, my morals and values have pretty much remained consistent for the most part. But I mean, it really was like, oh, wow. Like, I actually don't know myself as well as I thought I did. So that may have been something you experienced as well. You have here the Great Gathering. It's all coming together. Intuitive hits, soul, tribe. So yeah, I do, again, I feel like your friendship circles, or your communities, your groups, your networks, your memberships, etc., have probably changed a bit. Or at the very least, you may have been getting those intuitive nudges to look into them more deeply, to examine them, to maybe, um, step back from, create some distance in some of these groups. Now, I think it's really interesting because there's this Neptune card here, right, with mysticism, spirituality, and you have intuitive hits here. I do feel as though for some of you, your intuition was like, like, nope, we need to create some distance here. Or, maybe this is where you were going back and forth, because maybe your emotions were feeling one way, and your intuition was saying, oh, well, this is what it is. This is the truth. And a lot of times we struggle with that. But I do feel like all of this is, really coming to this point where I feel as though you have culmination, it's coming together. Okay. So I feel like it's trying to bring you to this point where things, it's like things start to snowball. I feel like all of this is to bring you to a new level of consciousness, to really awaken you to the depths of who you are. And yeah, to bring you to a point where you are seeing past the surface, not only with yourself, but with others. Ah, yeah. I also is getting this message of like, and maybe this is for someone very specific, but there's this message of they're like, what is it again? There's no more running. There's no more running. So maybe before, like I said, I was getting this energy of like maybe avoiding things. Um, where do we want to put you? Okay. Maybe you were avoiding things previously, and now you're in this position where maybe you can't do that anymore or couldn't in the month of February. So let's look at the realizations or epiphanies that February may have brought for you. We have here the law of power. Remember the truth of who you are. Yeah, I was picking up on that already, right? I definitely feel like, some of these realizations and epiphanies that came through were to get you to see through the illusion, were to get you to see who you truly are at a very deep level, peeling back those layers, right? Putting you in this position of empowerment in who you are, not just how you look, not just your job, not just the surface, more surface level kinds of things, your title, where you live, how much money you make, etc., etc., etc. I feel like this was really occurring to bring forth really how do I say, how empowering it is when you are moving from your truth, when you are moving from who you really, really are. And it is, not only is it empowering, but it's liberating as well. Because when we're living with this mask on, and by mask, I mean, it's usually not something that we are even aware of. But, the mask of our trauma, our programming, our wounding, our lower egoic drives, oftentimes we show up in the world in a way that it's honestly really disempowering. We feel very kind of, this may be triggering as well, but we feel, kind of weak. We feel like we can't trust people. We feel like we are not safe. We are not um, grounded, right? I feel like it can really, really, we can really be showing up in the world in a very kind of small way, even if our ego is telling us otherwise. And you don't really realize that until you start peeling back the layers and getting to know who you really, really are. Then you realize how heavy that mask was. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But I think it's interesting that you have this moon energy, right? We have full moon here. We have those moon cycles that I was talking about earlier there. And now there's another moon on this card. So I do feel like the month of February for you was to bring clarity, was to help you to see through the illusions, to get you more in touch with your intuition, to really help to, I feel like there's something about like, yeah, I don't know if I said this already, but like bringing clarity, really kind of like I'm seeing it almost as like fog or haze and being able to see clearly. I mean, it's kind of on the card here. I didn't even realize, there's some clouds here that are in front of the moon there. I feel like that it started to like move away, right? You have here as well the law of harmony, dissolve all discordance and chaos. Yeah. I think it's really interesting because it just seems to me that there have been some realizations or epiphanies around this doesn't feel good to me, this isn't serving me, this is toxic, this is chaotic. Maybe it's habits, maybe it is people, maybe again groups, right? Whatever it's been for you, I feel like the epiphanies were I don't want to deal with this. I don't. I really don't want to feel this way. I really don't want to live this way. I feel like, I feel like the realization is you kind of had to take control, right? You kind of had to stand in your own power and say, this is not for me. Or at the very least, I feel like you may have had that realization like, oh, it's up to me, right? I got to figure out what I want because I'm the one who's making the choices here. And I decide, if my life is harmonious or if it's chaotic. The law of transmutation. Energize the mental picture of your dream. I'm getting this energy. For some of you, you may have had a certain kind of plan or path or dream laid out in regards to your life. And that may have changed almost suddenly, it feels like, for some of you, because it's an epiphany, right? So I feel like for some of you, especially with that Neptune energy, you may have your dreams may have been like, this is the direction I'm going. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope, you're going that way. I just feel like it may have changed significantly. Let's look. I want to grab the guidebook here and just read the message for you on what this is. Give me a second to find it in here. Okay. So it says here, transformation is knocking at your door. Your soul knows that this does not take place out in the world or by changing the circumstances of your life, but rather is an inside miracle. This alchemy is to take place within your consciousness. You were drawn to this card because you have most likely been energizing what you do not want instead of what you do want. You are ready to become a master of energy, directing it for good. The universe desires for you to hold the vision you want for your life within your mind with total conviction. There is no action to be taken until inspired action is revealed within your heart. Right? So I'm very drawn to this whole kind of, where was that? Yeah, your soul knows that this does not take place out in the world or by changing the circumstances of your life, but rather is an inside miracle, because there's that energy of escapism. So for anyone who is maybe resonating with that or pinging with that, or maybe you were even triggered by that, I feel as though part of the realization is, again, you have to do these things. It has to be something that you do, right? It's not, you can't avoid it, right? There's no more running. I feel like for some of you, you've come face to face, right? Very interesting. And it does feel like for some of you, this was quite sudden. Let's see what else you have. Oh, yeah, interesting. Psychic, intuitive, dreamy. Yeah, I feel like your intuition's like, this is what it is. This is what it is. Because, again, you do have Neptune up here, which is the ruler of Pisces, right? So these energies showing up twice, I certainly feel like there's a lot of, power behind that, or it's something that was very relevant for you. And I feel as though, again, there's these two things. One being, I feel like you want to experience a life that is more more harmonious, or feels more dreamy, not in escape from reality sense, but just feels much better to you. I feel like for some of you, you may have had a very challenging life. I feel like, and for some of you, this started young. But it feels to me like you're more kind of wanting to not live that way anymore. And I feel like this is something that's come through for you in previous readings. And again, it does seem to me that your intuition was likely bringing up a lot of these truths about who you are, or if not a lot of them, which is of course subjective, but if not a lot of them, I feel like maybe it was like one or two, like really solid, like, oh, I can't unknow this, right? Type of things. About yourself, about others, about your environment. Yeah, and it really, really does feel, Sag, that there's this whole, you can't run. I mean, I know that's uncomfortable for many people to discuss. It's not exactly, a welcomed topic, if you will. But I do feel like there's something there for someone. You have here as well soul, consciousness, mind. Yeah. I I feel like, first of all, for some of you, maybe you are really starting to realize like how multi-layered you are. That may have been part of the realization or epiphany. Again, with the truth of who you are, right? And I feel like for some of you, this has really shifted again, it's shifted your mind, it's shifted your perspective. I feel as though it's also really brought forward, um, like your commitment to, or something that there's something here about self-love and being kind of committed to that. I don't know if before maybe you had some skewed perspectives on what that looks like. I mean, we've all been programmed to think self love is, like going out to have a drink with our friends or something like that. And I'm not saying that, that can't be, I'm not judging, okay? I'm not saying that can't be, helpful or enjoyable from time to time, but we have these very skewed perspectives or have been taught or programmed to believe, that it's like going out and having a drink with your friends or going to spend a bunch of money somewhere. And, really self love and self care often is, us being with ourselves, is, usually taking care of ourselves and really focusing on, let's say, our mental health or, our wellness, our energetic wellness, certainly. So our soul, right? Focusing on our healing. Um, yeah, I think we have some pretty self or skewed views on that, but I do. There's a line in this book that I can't grab, just out of my mind right now. Yeah, okay. So it says, the challenges you face in pursuit of love can test your loyalty, commitment, ego, and trust. Psyche can be the candle lighting the way forward, but the journey relies greatly on your faith. Love has the ability to transform your soul, and Psyche sheds light on how this part of you is expressed. Okay? But it's not, you know, it's not just about um how you, like, love for other people. Okay? It's also yourself, your commitment to yourself, you know, your trust in yourself, your loyalty to yourself, your faith in love and truth and beliefs. So, I feel like there's been some things maybe awakening. Perhaps there's been some kind of trauma or wounding or things around trust and love. Perhaps, you've been someone who's struggled to love yourself. And I feel like, part of the realizations that may have come through was just to really say, this is something that is a test of you. Really looking at, these different areas of your soul, of your consciousness, of your mind. Maybe you had some epiphanies around maybe why I don't know why I'm getting this, you guys. Some of you maybe have like some kind of relationship or commitment things that maybe you've had to work through. For some of you, maybe you struggle to trust others, whether it be romantic or platonic relationships. And I feel like there are others of you who have just kind of struggled to be loyal to yourself and to trust yourself, which I feel like is where this law of power is coming in. Yeah, you have Venus. So let's see. Let's put this here. Which is interesting because Venus is known as the planet of love often, right? It's connected with that. Beauty, artistry, love. Venus is also about harmony as well. And I do feel like this is a big one, right? Because here it is. So I do feel like for you, there's been For some of you, I'm hearing this, how do I say this? There's something around valuing harmony over what is perceived to be love. Again, oh my goodness, you guys, this is pretty deep, and again, it may be triggering to some because it feels as though there have been some maybe skewed perceptions on love, not just of self, but with other people and what that looks like. And I feel as though for some of you, it's made you uncomfortable. And it's interesting because I feel like in order to maintain some kind of what you would perceive from a, let's say, wounded state, okay, or traumatized state as harmony, I feel like there's been something around essentially love feels chaotic to me, love feels stressful to me, and the only way that I can perceive harmony, or experience or feel harmony is if I, you know, am not open to that. If I close off or shut down to love. I don't know what, you guys, it's deep, okay? It is pretty deep. Um, Again, I know these are not easy conversations to have, but it's here, and I'm not one to shy away from challenging discussions, okay? And I feel like, again, I feel like there's been some epiphanies on where you have maybe not seen clearly some of the things, traumas, wounding, programming, whatever it is, that you may have been holding around trust, commitment, love, connection, relationships. Each of these cards, so there is one being here, but there are two tigers, two men, two women, right? So it feels to me like something around this epiphany of you can be powerful in yourself and still, have like a partner or a companion. Um, Love doesn't equal bad. Love doesn't equal, a box. I don't know what this is. Let's see what. Well, there's your box. Competition, tension, disharmony. Yeah, I feel like for some of you, love has made you uncomfortable. It's as simple and as complicated as that. I feel like it really has, put you in a position where you're like, I'm just going to stay away from it because I'm not comfortable there. I feel like it may have always been like a tense topic or subject for you. Or maybe love for you has felt like a competition, and maybe not even with like your partner. But maybe, maybe there's some trauma or wounding around abandonment or loss. And maybe, anytime you've gotten into some kind of relationship or something, or felt like you could be open to love or exploring that or whatever, that maybe you just felt like you needed to compete with, other potential suitors for your partner. The world's full of people. This is such a fascinating energy to me. It does feel stressful, so I get it. But again, the thing of it is I feel like part of the realization that you had in February was the box that you may have put yourself in. right? This is pretty wild. I'm getting so many things, but I'm gonna leave it there because we have a lot more to go. Um, I just there's so much here that could be unpacked with this. Awakening, energetic upgrades, a new way of being, integration. Yeah, again, I feel like it's about that level up, that culmination, right? Things coming together to take you to the next level. I feel as though you have been awoken to a lot of things about yourself. And I do feel like for some of you, there's been this welcoming, if you will, of a new way of being, even if you aren't quite sure about it yet. I feel like some of you are like dipping your toe in type of thing because you're not really quite sure. But I do feel that there's definitely been some epiphanies for sure, for sure, and not surface level nonsense. Like I feel like this is definitely some deep things, maybe bringing forward some deep traumas, deep wounding, um, and certainly a lot about yourself. I feel like you're probably going to be integrating this for a bit, right? Really processing this for a bit, sitting with it, you know. You have your don't dim to fit in. How are you dimming your light in order to fit in? Yeah, like it does feel like for some of you, you kind of, there's been this feeling of like playing small. Not really. I feel like some of you don't maybe have realized where you have not seen your own value, or where, you know, maybe you've been dimming to fit in and that has created some chaos because you haven't been standing in your power, right? Again, it feels like kind of putting yourself in a box. Mm. I feel like some of you are awakening to, again, the truth of who you are. And I feel like some of you have come to this realization like, oh, I've actually been, you know, selling myself short. I mean, and here's the thing, the truth of the matter is a lot of times in spiritual development, we do that. We self-sabotage. We do not see our own value, our own worth, and we do play small, right? Because we're moving from our wounding and our trauma. And I feel like for some of you, this is like being brought to your attention. This is being made visible, if you will, to you. Break the chain, ancestral patterns, healing, rewriting the future. So again, it does feel like for some of you, these are traumas, woundings, things that maybe you've been carrying for some time. Again, I'm getting this feeling of some of you may have had really challenging childhoods, or you know, lives in general, and I feel like all of this is in order for you to heal. If you want a different experience, like you've got to do things differently. It's as simple and as complicated as that. There's this energy of the only way out is through. And so I do feel like for some of you, there's been a realization of, if I want my life to change, like I have to be the one to do that. Interesting as well that I picked up on this, you know, maybe the values or belief systems that you were carrying, or, you know, buying and selling, were not yours. And I feel like some of these things you're letting go of, right? If you grew up in, let's say, a really challenging childhood where, you know, love was something that was stressful, or that you couldn't rely on, this is just one of many, many examples, right? You can carry your perceptions of that, you know, if left unhealed, will carry into every relationship you have until you heal it, right? And so I just feel like this is coming up, or whatever this is has come up for you to release it, to decide something different for yourself. Like, I don't have to see life this way. life is actually beautiful. It's actually glorious, right? I can I don't know, for some of you it feels like maybe you're learning how to love life. Maybe part of the epiphany is loving life. Or actually loving life, right? Like I said, maybe you're seeing it in a much different way. Maybe it's more robust, colorful, vibrant. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to make some room here for these other cards, so give me just a second. All right, so we have Mintonkin, longing for home, belonging, the original light workers. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I've been honest, but I say that as like a warning. I feel like this longing for home, belonging, is speaking to some of the trauma and things that maybe you've been carrying. Maybe you felt like you didn't really belong anywhere. And I mean, it's really fascinating to me with Sagittarius being a very kind of, or you know, has the potential to be kind of like a transient type of energy, right? Someone who is very adventurous and going from one thing to another, you know, very kind of free. um, and I feel like some of you, it's interest. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so freaking wild. I feel like some of you have like, it's almost as if part of the mask has been hiding, or that's been hiding the wound or the trauma, has been this like, oh, I'm just adventurous, I'm just a free spirit, I just, you know, this and that. um but I feel like there's been a desire to belong, there's been a desire to have a home, and I feel like part of that could be Sagittarius, is that needing to come back home to yourself. For me, home is not four walls and a roof. Home is within you. It is your soul, right? And if you are at home in your soul, you can literally feel at home anywhere, wherever you are, right? I also feel like this is about, you know, not needing to belong. I feel like this may be why some of these things are coming up, these wounds and things are coming up. It's an interesting dynamic, because the thing of it is we are social creatures. We need other people to evolve. It is, I mean, it's as simple as that. Other people carry, you know, different information, knowledge, wisdom. People are catalysts for our growth. Like, we need other people. But we are also independent, right? We're also developing our capital I, our individuality. And so, you know, oftentimes we feel kind of torn between, you know, groups and solo, being, you know, being part of a group and being solo or lone wolf. And I feel like there's a balance, right? Because it's not about like fitting in or necessarily belonging. It's about being who we are, finding our home within, and being open to belonging, if that makes sense. Not being afraid of belonging. You guys, I hope this makes sense. I cannot believe we spent this much time on this already. I feel like there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot, Sagittarius. You know, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to, you know, the situation's not funny. It's kind of how I deal with things. It feels like a lot. It does. these epiphanies, I feel like, are life-changing epiphanies, should you choose to acknowledge them. The law of tithing: expand your consciousness and all things will be added. Yeah, I mean, so you have, this great gathering. The law of tithing has these two people, hugging each other. And I feel as though it is really about, the more you let these things go and the more room you make for other things, the more you're going to add better to your life, right? A lot of times we hold on to things because it's what we know and we're comfortable, even if we know it's not good for us. We'll stay there because we know how to survive it. We know how to navigate it, right? We get comfortable in our own pain. And I feel like this may impact your journey moving forward by helping you to release the pain and maybe positioning you in a way that is able to expand your life so that you can see and recognize and experience the good, right? The fulfilling, the harmonious, the love. But I feel like there has to be this willingness, this receptiveness, which again, it brings us back to that law of gender, or embrace your divine masculine, divine feminine. The law of action: get out of your comfort zone and take bold action today. So yeah, again, I feel like this could impact your journey moving forward by, like I said, you getting out of what you know, right? No more running. And we can be running and not physically running, okay? Not just changing our environment, but we can, be avoidant, which is also, essentially running. And I feel as though, this could help you to get out of that moving forward. You could find yourself taking bold action. It's interesting because I feel like part of how this could impact your journey moving forward is, again, by encouraging you to get out of your comfort zone and do something bold. Um, and I feel like for some of you, this is about, oh, I said lone wolf. Yes, right? Again, I feel like for some of you, it is about, realizing that being the lone wolf is not the only way, right? It's a survival mechanism. And I feel like all of this is unfolded to try to impact your journey moving forward by getting you out of being in survival mode and opening up to love, opening up to more. Interesting. Multifaceted, balanced, and curious. So it is meant to balance you. It is meant to create more harmony for you, right? I do think that if you pursue this, if you continue to move along this path, that you will probably, your curiosity about, I feel, spirituality and evolution and how all of these things kind of work, or something, I feel like you will likely get more curious about that. Yes, thank you. You will likely get more curious about your multifaceted nature, right? I think it's interesting too because you have this, Gemini here with the twins. So it's about, I feel like it's about not being the lone wolf. It's not to say that you can't have your alone time or be independent, but I feel like it's, I think there's a lot there about balance and, also experiencing other people and love and your match or your equal, and that can be platonic or romantic, either way. What else do you have? You're already doing it. Stop overthinking. Keep facing your true north. Yeah, I think there's something here about like getting out of your head, obviously. And I feel like it could impact you moving forward because if you've had this epiphany about remembering who you are, right? And you just keep following your intuition and trusting who you are, I feel like you're just going to keep moving along that vein. And not that it's going to be comfortable or even easy, because it won't be. I feel as though, this could impact you moving forward, so you're not overthinking everything. It's so freaking wild to me because this doesn't seem like what I would necessarily expect of Sagittarian energy, just based on what I know about, which isn't a whole lot, but just based on what I know about Sagittarian energy in general, it's not what I would typically expect. But I feel like there's this like questioning of self. There's this, or has been a lot of that. And I feel like moving, it again, if you continue to do this work and, dig deeper and continue finding who you are, I feel like you may find yourself in a position where you're not overthinking it so much. You're realizing that who you are is valuable, and all you have to do is keep pointing in that direction, right? You just have to be true to yourself, be authentic, follow your heart, which I feel like some of you may cringe on, but all right, let's look at the messages or advice to best support and serve you. The law of mental equivalent. Use your imagination to create your dreams into reality. So here's this is showing up a lot, right? You have the law of mentalism, energize the mental picture of your dream, and now the law of mental equivalent. Use your imagination to create your dreams into reality. We have dreamy energy with Pisces there, and of course, Neptune being the ruler of Pisces, that energy is amplified. We have imagination and creativity, which can come through that Venusian or Venus energy as well. And so I really do feel here. Here's the thing, Sag. I think it's the thing of it is like anything's possible, really. And I feel like if you take yourself out of whatever box you've placed yourself in about whatever situation, which has, I feel like, had the consequence of having some pretty skewed perspectives of self, and of the world and of love. And I mean, not any of those like, maybe it's all of them, maybe it's one of them, right? It's a collective reading, so it may be different for each of you. But I feel like there's been this like, I'm in my head about all of these things. And I feel like the advice for you is to think outside of the box. I'm going to read to you this card. You've had so much of this energy showing up. Let's see. Okay. It says here, by pulling this card, it indicates that you must wake up and realize that life is the ultimate mirror of your consciousness. Who you are being and how you are living indicates the exact beliefs you are embodying. If you do not like what you are experiencing, it is up to you to reprogram your subconscious mind and redirect energy upon universal law to manifest and demonstrate a life you love. Imagination is the secret to creating your dreams into reality. Go into contemplative meditation and ask yourself, who am I? If I am not my things, the status of my relationship, the money in my bank account, or my body, who am I? Right? Which is interesting because there was that energy I was getting, of kind of more surface level, right? Um, so again, I think it's really trying to ask you to go deeper, which is not comfortable by any means. The law of vibration, practice the art of not knowing and start flowing. I do feel like this is a transformational time for you, clearly. There's a lot of energy here. And especially with these realizations, it did feel like there was a lot coming through. I could have probably kept talking about those for some time. So, it does feel like there's a lot that's come up. And I feel like this for you, even though this is showing up, of course, in like messages or advice, I feel like this is the challenge for you, honestly. I feel like not knowing, I feel like is something that's very uncomfortable. And perhaps that's because, again, in situations maybe in your past or, growing up or something, perhaps you were in experiences where you didn't know, right? Where things were felt maybe always up in the air. Maybe there was not any kind of um, foundation or stability, security, these sorts of things. And so perhaps not knowing is really quite challenging for you to be able to allow yourself to do. But if we surrender and let our intuition, our heart, God, maybe you call it something else, but I call it God, so that's what I'll refer to it as. But, if you let God lead the way, you're probably going to experience life in a way that is actually far more I don't know, maybe not comfortable, but it feels so much less of a struggle, so much less challenging than when you're not. When you're in a state of resistance, think about it like, swimming upriver or trying to like, row a kayak or a canoe or something upriver. Like that's a struggle. There's so much challenge there. Whereas if you just flow with the river, or if you just flow with life, things just seem to go that much easier. It's not that they are easy, it just is easier, right? Transition, liminality, and twilight. Yeah, I do feel like you're on the cusp. Absolutely. I definitely feel like this is a transition period for you. And, should you choose to allow yourself, I feel like even if you can't see, what's ahead, I feel like it could really, man, I feel like it could really take you somewhere that you haven't been before. Um, in a very beautiful way. You also have transit, geez, insight, movement, change. So yeah, the advice or messages here for you is like, this is what's possible, right? Transition is possible. Movement, change is possible, but it's going to require that insight into yourself, right? You're on the cusp of a breakthrough, I feel. It's just a matter of, again, continuing to move forward. Putting what you've learned to use, right? Turning it into wisdom. Self-care, wellness, agriculture. So what I think is interesting about this is it's essentially an energy of nurturing. So yeah, like I was saying, this is possible. The transition is possible. You're on the cusp. It's just a matter of nurturing the insights you've gained, okay? taking care of yourself, focusing a little bit more on yourself, and allowing, flowing with that and allowing it to move you, allowing change to come in. And you have, yeah, inner temple devotion. Tune into the portal of your heart, right? So, like I was saying, following your heart, right? Being very honest with yourself and following your heart and nurturing what your heart is speaking to you. I just feel like the way that your cards are showing up to me is really speaking to this more abundant experience, especially when it comes to people and love, connection, intimacy, feeling, what is the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I mean, essentially feeling like you can just be and not have to be so on, right? Um, I feel like if you keep moving in this direction, I feel like things will be added, right? The more you expand your consciousness, the diver you deep into yourself, the more work you're willing to do, the more abundant you're going to experience, right? As you learn the truths of who you are, like really, um, I feel like you will experience life in a more beautiful and abundant way. Not necessarily materially abundant, though that could be true. I just feel that there's this energy of like being shut down or closed off. And the more you continue doing this, the more likely you will be to be open, to be receptive. It's like allowing what you're learning, the insights you're gaining to transform your heart and to really getting to know who you are and following what is right for you, facing fears, and just, keeping your eye on the prize, which I feel for you is expansion. I feel like it's growth. I feel like it's experiencing life in a beautiful way, a more harmonious, balanced way where you feel at home in yourself. Man, this has been pretty intense, Sag. I pray that there's something here that has blessed you in some way, shape, or form, provided some kind of value, confirmation, or clarity for you to help you in navigating your journey as you move forward and with what you may have experienced in the month of February. Please do remember, especially because this was such an intense reading, only take what resonates with you. If it does not resonate with you, please leave it for someone else. Okay? Do not make it your story if it isn't. If there has been something that's resonated for you, I would like to remind you to please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so very much for sharing your time, energy, and attention with me. I'm so very grateful for you being here and the opportunity to connect with you and your soul. I pray that you have a beautiful rest of your month wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Take care of your courageous, strong, unique, beautiful soul. Peace be with you and within you, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.